Welcome everybody to the Cover 2 podcast. My name is Nick Nenad.
And I'm Jared Smith.
And we have a great show for you today. We're going to be going over the NFL Combine. The draft picks of this year's draft have showed everybody their skills. They've ran the 40-yard dash. They've done the weightlifting competition. They've done the three-cone. Everything else that you do at the NFL Combine, they've done it. Some players did it, some players didn't, and we're just going to discuss pretty much all that we can about the NFL Combine, and at the end of the show, we will go over a couple of NBA storylines, a little rapid fire, not too many important stories, but just stuff we definitely wanted to dive into and talk about since it's a little bit of a low week in sports the last couple weeks. So, but we're going to do the NFL Combine. Jared and I just had a great discussion before the podcast started that we'll try to translate into now, but we kind of just want to vibe and just discuss what our thoughts are after the NFL Combine. My opinions have changed about a couple players for sure, and I think when we do our draft analysis, our draft prediction, my picks would be a lot different than they were before the NFL Combine. How about you?
The Combine is... it's tough for me because I call the Combine like the underwear Olympics. Literally, you think about it, guys aren't in shoulder pads or helmets.
Yeah.
They're in like workout clothes. And yeah, it's great to see a guy run fast in a 40-yard dash or have a 40-inch vertical, or see him catching passes against air. That's all great. But none of that really, like how much of that really translates onto the field and playing in a live NFL game. Like, I think you have to go back and really look at a player's tape and see what they've done in live game situations throughout their collegiate careers to really see who that player is. Because if you're having to go into a combine workout where guys are in workout clothes and you're having to really say, I'm not too sure on this guy, but if he goes out and he runs a fast 40, he's definitely going to be an NFL player. It's like, so I kind of take everything that's happened in the Combine with a grain of salt. Now, not to say that a player cannot, help his draft stock if he runs faster or if he jumps higher or, shows his athleticism out on the field. But the Combine to me is, like I said, I think sometimes is a little over-exaggerated and people say, oh my gosh, he ran a 4.28 40, like Henry Ruggs, the receiver from Alabama, who was pegged as a first-round pick all along, and now after his great Combine workout, many people are putting him as the number one wide receiver in the entire class, right? So, but that's what I'm saying. It's almost like you have to say, okay, he had a great workout, but let's go back to the actual football tape and see if that football tape translates to what he did in this workout. You know what I mean?
I know.
It's kind of tough for me to sit here and just completely get enamored with the Combine when in reality I think it's more about what these guys have done on the field and in game situations as opposed to just...
For sure, and especially the guys that have played the big-time college football games against a lot of NFL talent. Those guys at the Combine, you're right, what are they really going to show? It's actually going to be more impressive what they do in those games than what they do on the field. And they actually might, unfortunately and unfairly, maybe not perform as well in the eyes of a lot of people because they're like, well, that guy, in CeeDee Lamb's case, that guy went to Oklahoma, but he only ran a 4.5. And it's like, okay, well, but he made unbelievable catches, amazing stats with 3 different quarterbacks. So what's your point, right? Maybe he was just a little tired that day during the Combine and just didn't run the best. It is kind of ridiculous. I will say this too. The most overrated thing at the draft is the 40-yard dash. Because, to be honest, how many of the guys that have truly broken the records or are always getting the 4.2s really, really end up being these star guys?
I mean, look at John Ross, who holds the NFL Combine record for 40-yard dash at, 4.22? And he's still in the NFL playing with the Cincinnati Bengals. You drafted him a couple years ago, but he is not panned out as the elite number one receiver.
He was drafted 7th or something like that?
He was drafted in the top 10, and he's 5'8", 5'9". He's a slot receiver. He's a great complementary piece, but to be drafted that high, you are expected to be, the bell cow or be the guy that can get your team wins, and John Ross is just not that guy. You're right. I think the 40-yard dash is a little overrated. And I was listening, I was able to watch most of the draft this weekend, and it was interesting hearing the commentators say that a lot of times some of these numbers, whether it's the 40-yard dash, the vertical, whatever it is, athletes after the NFL season, right? So after the college season is over, they transition themselves from, practicing for football-related stuff to almost becoming like a track athlete. Like you go to a specific trainer who helps kind of critique your actual running style and helps you run specifically for the 40, right? So you're not really working on football related things. You're doing something like specifically for this NFL Combine workout. So the numbers may be a little off, and that's why, like I said, I think you take this with a grain of salt, because maybe your technique is off. Like maybe they're teaching you to run a different way than you've been running for the first 18, 19 years of your life, right?
Sure.
It's tough to change your running style just for an NFL Combine, right? That could potentially hurt your status if a trainer comes in and says, oh, you need to run this way in order to run a faster 40-yard dash, when that can be completely, like a second language to you. So I think a lot of factors go into this 40-yard dash and the Combine in general. And now that it's over with, I think scouts, teams can go back to the actual game film and really evaluate these players.
Yeah, I mean, I can attest to exactly what you're saying. My brother, who's going to be playing college football next year,
at Yale, by the way.
Yeah, has been running.
Congratulations, Chase.
Absolutely. He has been running track, which he never did in his life, and he's been training to get a little bit faster going into college football, because he knows it's another level. I have to get a little bit faster. But he's never done any of this stuff. Like, I think up until last year, period, he didn't know how to run. Like, he was, and he's learned that stuff.
Well,
so
I don't want to say he didn't know how to run, but there's a difference running in a football game situation and running, like, on the track field when you're trying to run a 100-yard dash. Well, it's very different.
No, exactly. And he didn't like, I'm getting super personal with this, but he didn't like the necessarily the way they train football-wise, and he's more of a powerful receiver anyway, so his speed is not the number one thing of his arsenal. It's his hands and his power after the catch. But he still knows that he needs to get better. So it's a lot like the NFL. You're going from college to the NFL. It's a similar step from high school to college football. And we can also compare this a little bit too. I think when you look at the NFL Combine overall, we're going to get into the actual players that we like and stuff like that. You have to look at it like the March Madness, right? March Madness, a lot of times, a player can be elevated by March Madness, but it's really just a stepping stone, and you can improve your stock, but people a lot of times aren't basing the number one pick on how far you got in March Madness. Rarely ever. There's been guys like Dominic DiVincenzo who got drafted a little higher because of his performance in the national championship game itself. But a lot of times, like Anthony Davis wasn't the number one pick because his team won the national championship. He was going to be number one pick overall, right? Zion Williamson last year. A little different because he got banged up, but he was going to be number one pick no matter what. It wasn't going to be some guy from Virginia that was automatically going to be both in. So I see that similar with the Combine, that it's part of the whole package. When you like Henry Ruggs and then he runs a 4.28, maybe that makes you take him over a CeeDee Lamb or a Jerry Jeudy. That might not be the best pick, but maybe in some people's minds, they really loved him, and then they're like, if he runs a 4.2, we're drafting him for sure. Right? And then maybe there's other guys.
It's kind of just validating what they've already
exactly.
seen.
And then sometimes you got Henry Ruggs super fast, and then he runs a 4.5, and you're like, oh, what the hell was that? Like, he's supposed to be the super fast guy, and he tied all the receivers normal times. So,
and by the way, just for like a reference, regardless of your position, in a sense, whether you're a wide receiver who's supposed to run fast, or defensive linemen who are obviously bigger body guys who aren't typically running fast 40 times, a 4.5 40 is fast. Anything above that, like a 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, that is considered technically running a slow 40-yard dash. Yeah. So just for people that don't know, when we say these numbers like 4.5, 4.2, a 4.2 is like elite. It does not happen often.
It's the best ever.
Right, exactly. So running a 4.5 40 is very, very good. And like I said, depending on your position, that could be very great. Or in some senses, for if you're a wide receiver, if you run a 4.5 or 4.55 40, that may not be the best thing for you, right? That could actually hurt your draft stock, even though in totality, a 4 or 5 40 is very good.
Yeah, no, and if you look at most of the skill positions, the guys that really ran in the NFL Combine overall were running 4.5s, and a lot of times when guys ran 4.6s, it definitely was different. You could tell the difference.
I mean, okay, so here's an example. They were showing replays of past years NFL Combines, and DeAndre Hopkins, right? Arguably one of the best receivers in all the NFL for the Houston Texans. I believe he ran like a 4.57. I mean, he didn't run like a 4.3. Like, he wasn't like, he didn't have elite speed, right?
No, I know.
But he's a great receiver. So, like I said, it's not all about the 40, right?
It isn't. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald, I think, ran 4.6, 4.7.
Which is bad.
It's not good.
Not good.
But he's one of the best, probably the second best wide receiver to ever play the game. Right? So it's like...
That's...
I mean, whoa. So who possibly... There's Jerry Rice, and then there's Larry Fitzgerald. I think they have the Super Bowl.
We're going to leave that for another discussion there.
We'll have to go over that. Okay, so let's get into players that we... change our minds about, or if, because I know your view on the combine is maybe a little different than mine. I do take some stock. It seems like a little bit more stock in the combine than you do. You can go over maybe some players that have just improved overall, and guys that you like, not necessarily because of what they did at the combine, but just in the last couple of weeks where you've kind of changed your mind. Mm-hmm. And then when we do our draft projections, stuff that has changed. So who are some of these guys that you like a little bit more?
I'm going to start with a player that I can almost guarantee no one that's watching this show has even heard of. His name is Kyle Duggar. He's out of Division II, Lenoir-Rhyne. You can tell me where Lenoir-Rhyne is? I can't either now.
I can't even guess.
But it's a Division II school. Kyle Duggar, he is a safety. Going into this college football season, I don't think anyone knew his name unless you went to Lenoir-Rhyne.
Yeah.
And since the draft process has begun, this guy has, gone from a late, like 6th, 7th round draft pick all the way up to the number 3 rated safety in his position class. He had an 11.2 broad jump, which is amazing. He had a 42-inch vertical, right? Unreal. 42 inches is anything above like 39 is fantastic, and for him to have a 42-inch vertical is amazing. I'm trying to figure out how this kid ended up at a Division II football program. Nothing against Division II programs, Division III, anything like that. To go play college football in general is fantastic, but how this player was not at a Division I top school, to me is just kind of mind-boggling. After putting up the performance that he did at the combine.
Yeah, it's strange because Lenoir-Rhyne, I believe, is Division II, which essentially means Division III. Like in the ways the way you think about it, like you have obviously the Power 5 conferences and FBS, then you have FCS, which you can kind of consider Division II, or a lot of us consider Division II.
Already confused.
Yeah, and then you have actual Division II. Where it is confusing, but so this guy is on a level lower than North Dakota State and Yale, like we just mentioned, and all the Ivy League schools. It's even a level lower than that. So yeah, where did this guy come from?
Right.
And here's the thing: we were talking about, we don't take a lot of stock. This is the kind of thing with these guys. Their combine stuff really does matter.
It does,
yeah.
And now here's the thing: you have to say, okay, he had a great combine. You saw his athleticism, running, jumping, all of that. You then, as a scout or a team, you have to go back and look at his tape. Here's the problem: because he played with lesser competition, right? He wasn't playing Division I. This isn't the SEC where you're going up against Alabama and LSU every weekend, right? You're going up against teams that I can't even tell you who he went up against in college, right? So you have to put 2 and 2 together and say, okay, he played against lesser competition. When he gets into the NFL, is he going to be able to catch up to the speed and of the athletes that are in the NFL, because he hasn't played with those type of athletes before? So that's where teams and that's where scouts get paid the big bucks to make these types of decisions. And you're right. This, in most cases with the combine, you kind of take these workouts with a grain of salt. This is kind of the opposite situation where you have a guy coming from a low program and he has a great workout and you say, whoa, wait a minute, we need to go back and you know, kind of double check this guy's tape, and maybe we were wrong for not looking at him in the first place, right? Maybe he deserves to be drafted high even though he played at a Division II school. So wanted to shout out Kyle Duggar, you know, great workout, and I think this will just continue to open the door for Division II schools and lower programs that, you know, don't get looked at as much as the Ohio States and the Alabamas of the world.
If you are good enough, the NFL will find you.
They will. And just one more thing very quickly before we go on to some Knicks players. The NFL Combine is obviously the main stage, but there are also regional combines, and there's a plethora of other opportunities, pro days and opportunities for players who don't get invited. There's only, I believe, 300 invitations for this actual NFL Combine. It's in Indianapolis every year. So just because you don't get an invite to this doesn't mean you're not going to make it to the NFL. Like you said, every college program has a pro day where scouts and teams come to that actual college to watch the players work out. There's regional combines that you can go to. So there's multiple other ways that guys can get looked at. It's just the NFL Combine is kind of the upper echelon. You know, if you get invited to the NFL Combine, it's a big deal.
No, and there's also, it's not like the draft is the only way you can get in. You can be signed as an undrafted free agent and still make an NFL team. So your combines do count. And not everybody that was invited to the NFL Combine actually does compete. And, to be honest, they should probably amend the rule and maybe have a short list of another 100 guys, just in case guys don't actually compete. They should let other guys compete.
So let's look. You know, the projected top 2 players in this draft, Joe Burrow, quarterback of LSU, Chase Young, defensive end of Ohio State. Both of those guys did not practice, right? They met with teams. They had you know, one-on-one interviews, but they did not do any athletic drills on the field. They didn't run the 40. They didn't jump. They didn't do anything like that. I think because they know that they're going to be drafted high and they don't have as much. If anything, they have a lot to lose as more as a lot to gain. So they were just going to sit back and say...
Joe Burrow, literally, there's absolutely no reason why he has to do the draft. Because he's the consensus number 1. Now, you can debate about that whether you want to or not, but there's 90% chance is that the Bengals draft Joe Burrow. So yes, literally all he can do is lose. And in Chase Young's case as well, he's going to be the best non-quarterback chosen, and if he's not, that team's an idiot, to be honest. And so he doesn't. It's the same thing.
And, you know, some people will just say, from a competitive standpoint, you always want to see guys on the field, regardless of their draft status or, you know, how highly people think of them or what. You want to see them compete, and of course, it would have been great to see those guys on the field. But from a business standpoint, because let's remember, the NFL is a business at the end of the day. They're not in college anymore. These guys are NFL prospects, and you have to take business. You have to take money into the consideration. So you go out on that field and you hurt your ankle, tear an ACL, do something like that. You are going to not only hurt your draft status, you're going to be losing money, which at the end of the day, you know, is the main reason.
That's the thing we don't want to do.
Guys play. Right.
No, 100%.
So let's get to some of Nick's
So I have
players.
3 guys that I was, after this combine, I was more impressed with. Okay.
That kind of rose.
2 of them are based on their actual combine statistics, and one of them is based on nothing that has to do with any of the combine, and just by something that happened to him. Okay, so number 1 is Isaiah Simmons. Hybrid. I don't even know what position to say he is because he's
linebacker, safety. He's played defensive end,
edge rusher.
He could probably play quarterback.
Yeah, he could probably be a head coach if he wants to.
A unique, and when I say unique, I mean a once in a generational.
Yeah, no, I mean we're looking at a guy that is a freak of nature. And when we talk about guys like Jadeveon Clowney and Chase Young and a lot of these other guys, or Jabril Peppers type, this guy is that. He can play multiple positions, and his draft stock was already rising before the combine. Now after the combine, I do honestly think, along with some other people, that he is going to be the second position player taken, or at least he should be. I think he's the second can't-miss player behind Chase Young. The reason I'm saying this, he ran a 4.39 40. Remember what we were saying, a 4-5 is good for receivers and corners and running backs.
Right.
Not linebackers. Or like what? That's amazing. 4.39, a 39-inch jump, vertical. I mean,
the dude was made in a lab.
There's another example of where the combine can help a guy out. When the guy does freakish things, that's a little different, right? If Chase Young went out there and ran a 4.35, people have been like, he needs to be drafted number 1 by the Bengals, 100, that's the kind of stuff. This is another example of where the combine there is some stock in what these guys do. So just simply those two things and his overall hype going into this, I think he needs to be drafted by the the Lions or the Redskins or the Giants or whoever has that second non-quarterback pick in the draft. I think Simmons needs to be picked. What's your thoughts on that?
I can't argue with that. In years past, right, linebackers have not been taken that high in the top 10. You have to be a special, unique talent for the linebacker spot. Not that it's not important, obviously it is, but on the defensive side of the football, you have to have a pass rusher, someone that can get to the quarterback, get sacks, affect the quarterback, right? And you have to have a shutdown, lockdown, Deion Sanders type cornerback, right? And then I feel like, in my personal opinion, linebacker comes third. But when you have a generational talent, like I mentioned, in Isaiah Simmons, and in today's NFL, and today's football period, where you have teams throwing the ball all over the place, this isn't, the 90s and before, where it was smash mouth football, and you had linebackers weighing, 270 pounds, just big bruising guys. It is a sideline-to-sideline football game. You have to be able to run and have speed at every position. So it is a different day and age. 15, 20 years ago, Isaiah Simmons, yes, he's a freakish athlete, is going nowhere near the top 5. Today's NFL, like Nick just said, he is arguably the best defensive talent, right behind Chase Young.
No, yeah, and the reason I say that Chase Young should be, the team is an idiot if they don't pick Chase Young, is because Chase Young's position is established as one of the most important in the NFL. Like you said, second or third most important position, maybe behind, quarterback. So Chase Young, we've seen the Nick Bosas, the Clowneys, the Chandler Joneses, so many of these guys be difference makers on the Khalil Macks, stuff like there's so many of these guys. So you want that's a safe pick. Isaiah Simmons, because of the lack of positions, sometimes those guys can fluster a little bit, like Jabril Peppers has. But Peppers is starting to come around for the New York Giants now. So it's that's why I say that Simmons shouldn't be the number 1 guy taken off the board besides quarterback, but he definitely should be second because I think there's nobody else really that's like him besides Chase Young.
So, and just to put this all in perspective before Nick goes on to his second player, Isaiah Simmons ran a faster 40 time than Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey, and we know how freakishly athletic both of those players are. And let me also say Isaiah Simmons is 6'3" and over 230 pounds. Like I said, the dude was built in a lab. He's not human. And whichever team gets him, whether it's most likely not the Redskins, the Lions are picking at number 3, the Giants are at number 4, whoever gets this kid is going to have a special talent. And if you can't find a way to make this kid successful in the NFL, then it's the coach's problem. The coach should be fired, right? This kid, you put him on the field and you say, you go guard, you just give him free reign to do what he wants. Because if he somehow ends up being a bust in the NFL, other than injuries or something, a coach needs to be fired.
Yeah.
It's just...
No, I agree. It's funny because I was just, I was joking around on Reddit the other day with a couple of Cardinals fans, and I was saying, yeah, it sucks that he did this well at the Combine because maybe he would have dropped us. But, there's no way he's going to drop to, anybody below probably top 5 pick unless the first couple picks are quarterbacks.
I saw one mock draft where he went number 7 to the Jaguars or something like that, and I was like, in what world?
Well, no, because I see it like this. There's 4 quarterbacks that I think will be drafted in the first round. There's the potential that there's teams that trade up and, literally the top 4 picks are quarterbacks. That could happen. Right? So the lowest Simmons is going to go, in my opinion, is 6th. There's no way, based on the quarterback. Because quarterback is the most important position. You need to pick that. If you don't have a quarterback, you should pick that. But he needs to be picked no lower than 6th in this draft because I think he's better than everybody with Chase Young. Okay, my second player is Mekhi Becton.
Who?
An offensive tackle from Louisville.
Oh, okay, I know who this guy is.
And it's not because he's projected by a lot of people to be picked by the Cardinals. Again, it's his combine stats. Okay, so I don't know what the average for offensive line 40 time is.
It's over 5 seconds.
It's over 5 seconds.
I know that.
But it has to. I think it's mid 5s.
So like 5'5".
Yeah, 5'5", maybe even into the 6s, right? Mekhi Becton ran a 5'1" So that you're like, okay, well, there's athletic. He's 6'7", 364 pounds.
364?
364. You are looking at, I don't even know what to compare. We're going into the pro wrestling ranks as far as guys that are this big that can run even remotely. Like, I don't know anybody to compare that to. So in that case, this man has improved his draft stock. He is now the first offensive lineman taken off the board by most draft predictors, and that is because of that one combine score. I don't know if the Arizona Cardinals should pick him because I'm not up for just because of a guy's combine score, you pick him. And there's a lot of other good offensive tackles that play for teams like Iowa and Alabama and Clemson that play against more NFL talent.
And this is just literally me thinking about this right now in my head. So the Cardinals run, a version of the air raid offense, right? They like to throw the ball a lot. You have to have athletic offensive linemen that can kind of move in space, right? This guy, I think he's the definition of athletic when you're talking about linemen.
Well, I think overall in the NFL, the league is more athletic, so this is why these kind of guys get vaulted forward.
And if he were to get drafted to any team in particular, not to say that he couldn't do it, but if he were to get drafted with the Tennessee Titans who primarily run the football, or the San Francisco 49ers who primarily run the football, something like that, maybe he wouldn't have the success that he would have if he were in an offensive system that threw the ball more and played more to his strengths. So, if you're the Cardinals and you're looking to draft an offensive tackle, I think you, obviously after this combine workout, you have to look at Becton and say, wow, look at his measurables, look at what he ran. If we put him in our offense where he's going to be on an island with a defensive end, one-on-one, he's going to have to be mobile and very athletic. I mean, that doesn't seem like a bad pick to me.
Jared, if you're a safety or a corner, where you have a run play you have a run play to the left, and Becton's coming around the corner, and he's running at you, do you want to be hit by a 6'7", 360
You make a business decision and get the hell out of the way.
Take out his legs.
Yes. You know what you do? Sniper! You just you go down. You fall and you hope that he trips over you.
Yeah.
And you don't break a rib as his big man foot hits you in the side.
Yeah, so that's another guy that I want to protect. And then here's the last one, and this is not because of his combine performance, but because of certain results that came out, and that is Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback for Alabama. It came out, his injury report came out with flying colors, which essentially means that he's going into this NFL season healthy. Now, we know he's had the injury problems in the past, but going into this next season, whether he's playing for the Miami Dolphins, Washington Redskins, Cincinnati Bengals, Carolina Panthers, Los Angeles Chargers, he will be healthy, which I think is the most important thing for him coming out of this draft, and was the most important thing coming out for any quarterback, period, in this draft. What was your thoughts when you heard that he passed with flying colors on his injury?
I was happy
specifically
for him.
on this kid.
I was happy for him, really, because all last year going into the 2019 NFL season, every team that was quote unquote tanking, it was tank for Tua, right? Tua was the guy. Joe Burrow was not really on anyone's radar. Yes, he played for LSU, a premier program, but no one thought that Joe Burrow was going to have 50 touchdown passes and pass for over 5,000 yards, right? It was all about Tua. And then unfortunately, Tua has the injuries to his ankle and then the season-ending injury to his hip. And you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, that's just bad luck. If Tua were healthy, if he would not have had the season-ending injury to the hip, Tua, I believe, would be the number 1 quarterback. I think he is a better prospect overall than Joe Burrow. He has a better resume overall, even though Joe Burrow is also a national champion. And no one in college football history has thrown for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdown passes. The thing is, are you trusting that Tua will be healthy for the majority, if not all, of his career? That is the big question. If you take the medical history out of the equation, like I said, I think Tua is a better quarterback than Joe Burrow. Nothing against Burrow. Burrow is still a top 10 quarterback, or a top 10 eligible drafted quarterback. But I think that's great news that Tua did come back with his medical healthy. The question is, now it's really on your individual teams and their medical staffs to say, okay, if we bring Tua in, what are we projecting him as? Because that's everything is always about projections, especially in the NFL, right? When you're looking to pay a player, it's not for what he has done; it's for what he is projected to do in the future, right? Sure. And just when you're gonna draft a player, you draft a player in the first round in the top 10 for his projections because you think he's going to be a perennial All-Pro, All-Star type of player that can change your franchise. If you're drafting a guy in the 6th or 7th round, you're taking a flyer on a guy, right? Because you don't think that he has that high of projections. So I hope that Tua can stay healthy. More than likely, the Bengals will draft Joe Burrow. Tua will slide down to 3, 4, 5. The Lions, not the Giants because they have their quarterback. Another team that wants to trade up. Tua will get drafted in the top 5, and hopefully he can stay healthy because he is a special talent. And if you think about it, with Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and now you're adding in this draft Joe Burrow, Tua, and then next year, why am I blanking on the quarterback from Clemson right now? Trevor Lawrence. The NFL seems to be in good hands with the young quarterbacks coming in, so hopefully Tua can be one of those guys.
No, sure. And NBA, like you mentioned, we've seen the last couple quarterbacks that have been drafted high besides Baker Mayfield really perform well. Like Kyler Murray was Offensive Rookie of the Year. Like Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson, we could have won the Super Bowl.
I will say one thing. I'm also rooting for Tua, and this is just a random thing to think about at the top of my head. But Tua will be the first left-handed quarterback in the NFL.
I know everybody forgets
since Kellen Moore, who is the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator. There are currently no left-handed quarterbacks in the NFL, right? So that's interesting too, because if you're a receiver, the spin of the ball is different. When you're running offensive plays, you're in a sense flipping them so that they are, I don't even know if this is correct terminology, but they're left-handed plays so that they work well for your left-handed quarterback. You're running bootlegs to the other side of the field. It's just the offense completely switches when you go to left-handed quarterback. I mean, I can only think of a few left-handed quarterbacks. Obviously, Kellen Moore. You had the Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback.
You're saying for the last couple of years?
No, just in general, Steve Young.
Oh, yeah, Steve Young.
Michael Vick.
Mark Brunell.
But I mean, literally, there is handful of left-handed quarterbacks. It is very rare. So I also want to see Tua make it in the league and be successful just from that standpoint, because maybe there's kids out there that are left-handed and maybe they're skeptical of playing the quarterback position because it's not that often that you have one in the NFL. Maybe teams are only looking for guys that are right-handed quarterbacks. So just another opportunity and maybe an open door for younger players who are looking to play quarterback. What
is it about left? Oh, Matt Lyon is another one.
He didn't really pan out. But just like I said, it's very tough to sit here and think just off the top of our heads of left-handed quarterbacks that have made it into the NFL, let alone been successful.
Yeah, no, I mean I've seen more behind the back passes than left-handed throws in recent years, which is insane to think about. So, okay, so we're gonna change up topics completely. If you have any comments about players that you thought had impressive performances in the NFL Combine that we didn't talk about, that you want to give your opinion on, please do it in the comments on this video or on YouTube, or hit us up on Twitter, either me or Jared or the Cover 2 Podcast Twitter account.
We're not shy.
Yes, we are not shy, and we will give you our opinion for sure. Okay, I want to go over a couple of NBA topics, and so we actually used to play a game on this podcast when we were live on the air on the radio called Do You Care?
Oh, yeah.
So we're not necessarily going to do that today because we don't have the back and forth necessarily, but we have 6 topics that we're going to quickly kind of go over, and we'll just ask each other, and we'll give, so it is kind of a pseudo do you care here on the Cover 2 podcast, bringing it back. But we have 6 topics that we want to discuss from the NBA from the last week, and coming up later this week, certain games that we want to talk about. So here we go. Jerry, I'll ask you this question first. Kyle Kuzma just changed his hair color.
Yeah.
Let's get this one out of the way. He's not blonde. He's not Slim Shady anymore.
Yeah.
How good of a thing is this for the Lakers?
You know,
a lot of our friends are excited about
from
this.
a basketball standpoint,
Really changed his performance on the court.
I don't know. Maybe he was playing okay with the blonde hair. Maybe this is a confidence booster.
Yeah.
I heard one reporter say that just like he needs to just keep it moving with that blonde hair. Like he's doing it for the gram and he's doing it to get mentions and follows and all that stuff. But it's like after a while, like it became old. Like you gotta keep people on their toes. You gotta keep switching it up. So I thought he was gonna go like blue or purple or something crazy. He went back to more of a natural color, which is a little shocking after just like immediately going blonde a couple months ago. So will this affect his play on the court? I don't believe so. But we're obviously talking about it here. People are talking about it all over the network. So Kyle Kuzma is being mentioned. And I guess that's the biggest thing.
The only reason I asked this question is because on the way over here, I was listening to Keyshawn Johnson give him crap about this.
About changing his hair? He wanted him to stay blonde?
He's saying it's a good idea because, and this is his quote, the guys that have blonde hair that succeeded in sports usually are a little insane. And he cited Antonio Brown and Dennis Rodman. So you don't necessarily want to be in that category of players besides their talent on the field court. But off the court, you don't want to be anywhere near Antonio Brown and Dennis Rodman. And we don't have to tell you about that. You understand that. Okay, so I'll answer this one. Steph Curry is currently practicing with the Santa Cruz Warriors. That is the G League team for the Warriors. And he's set to come back in the near future, potentially on TNT against the Toronto Raptors. Personally, I think this is a terrible idea for Steph because the Warriors, they have no chance in the playoffs. And I know more than likely he's not returning to try to make them in the playoffs, like get them to the playoffs. But I just think, you're coming back, your team's going to get number 1 pick more than likely if you just keep playing like they are because they're playing like the worst team in the league.
They are, 13-48.
Yeah, Klay Thompson's not coming back. You lost Durant. You traded away Andre Iguodala. Draymond clearly isn't the offensive, like he needs the other players around him to succeed.
Of course.
Why not just get the number 1 pick, stay healthy? Like I said, come back and play for the Olympic team, if the Olympics even happen. Do it there. Win a gold medal for the U.S. Don't come back for this Warriors team that you want to get the number 1 pick. To be honest, the number 1 pick this year is a little less than I think the last couple of years. To be honest, there's not a consensus number 1 guy. So the Warriors aren't going to get some Zion Williamson, for example. Right. But it's still more valuable than ending up with the 3rd or 4th or 5th.
Well, so in the NBA, for people who don't know, it is a little different. The team that ends up with the worst record does not automatically get the number 1 pick. There is a draft lottery where you then have the best odds of getting the number 1 overall pick. But if you're like 1 through 5 as far as the worst teams in the league, you have like the best odds of getting the number 1 pick. So and what that does is it stops teams from purposely losing games, right? Because, like I said, just because if you're trying to lose on purpose, like the 76ers were doing for years and years, you're not automatically guaranteed to get the number 1 pick, right? So, listen, I agree with you. I think Steph should just sit out, and this season is a wash in a sense. But from, like I said, from a competitive standpoint, and knowing Steph Curry, he wants to be out there with his boys. Yeah. He wants to play. You're right. Obviously, they're not going to make the playoffs. There's no chance in hell. mathematically they can't. But he wants to get out there and play, right? He missed most of the year. Obviously, this wasn't the year that they thought with, and it all started with Klay Thompson going down in last year's finals, tearing his ACL. But this team, even though they lost Kevin Durant, they were still supposed to be competitive. They were obviously still supposed to make the playoffs and make a run for it again. And so this has been an unusual year for the Warriors. And I think he just wants to go out there and kind of restore some hope and say, hey, we're going to be back next year. I'm healthy. I just want to get my legs underneath me. So from a competitive standpoint, I see where he's coming from. From a whole like a team sense and a business standpoint, I think he should sit and rest. But he is coming back.
Business decisions. We've already talked about this on this podcast today.
But you know what? He also is already a multimillionaire. He has made his money. It's not like he's a rookie and he's looking to get that first big contract. Like, the dude is loaded. So the money isn't as big of a factor as with maybe some other players.
My thing is that I think when you look at the Warriors specifically, and I'm not a Warriors fan, but especially last year, I wasn't rooting for them necessarily, but I definitely saw the just amazingness of that overall team, and the fact that they still almost won the finals without Durant and without Klay, and everybody's it was pretty impressive. So I know the Lakers and Clippers are going to be awesome next year. The Rockets will still be good. The Bucks will still be good. The Nets will be great next year. Why not add the Warriors? The Warriors with Klay, Steph. Probably not Draymond because I think he's a free agent next year. But Andrew Wiggins and a number one pick, they're still going to be a great team, and it's going to be it's good for the league, right? So I just don't want anything to happen to Steph because I have gained a lot of respect for Steph over the last couple of years. Okay, Jared, this is an interesting one. Spike Lee says he's not going to any Knicks games for the rest of the season.
Good Lord.
He cited an incident where Madison Square Garden security wouldn't allow him into a certain employee's entrance that he had entered in before. Jared, we talked about James Dolan before in the same light that we've talked about Jim Boss, Rob Manfred, Roger Goodell. Is it time for the NBA to do something about him just destroying this historic franchise? Because Spike Lee is literally all that's left for the Knicks. What did they have that is even remotely an attraction to see at a Knicks game now? Because it was just Spike Lee.
I don't know where to go. We could have a whole segment on James Dolan and how much of an idiot this guy is. Yeah. This guy's a billionaire. He not only owns the New York Knicks, he owns Madison Square Garden, right? One of, if not the most recognizable arenas in the entire sport. And the fact that his team has not won an NBA championship since the 70s, right? 70s, you can't get star athletes to come play for you, as in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, who went to Brooklyn as opposed to New York. That has a bigger history, right?
It's a different borough.
It's the fact that you have Spike Lee, who has said on multiple occasions he's been a courtside season ticket holder for 20 plus years. Those seats per game, $3,000 a seat per game. Times that by 82. Times that by 20 years. Spike Lee has spent millions.
Well, not even counting playoff prices too.
Millions of dollars on this team. He said that he has never asked for any special celebrity treatment. Yes, he got to go through some, employee's door, but he's Spike Lee. He probably did. That was probably agreed to within the, I guarantee that other celebrities and other athletes and people have been able to use this specific exit, to get out so that they aren't just kind of bombarded by fans, right? The fact that James Dolan just all of a sudden, without a fair warning ahead, without an email or a text or a phone call, just automatically said, "Hey Spike, you can't come through here anymore." Listen, I don't know if James Dolan knows this, but Spike Lee is basically giving the Knicks free press, free publicity.
100%.
Think about, would we even be talking about the Knicks right now if Spike Lee hadn't been a fan for so long? No, the Knicks aren't relevant.
And think about this too. They beat the Rockets the other day. Like when this happened,
I mean, yeah, right.
They beat the Rockets, and we should be talking about Leon Rose and their brand new GM, but we're talking about something that is perceived as a bigger deal because the disrespect that we see with Spike Lee, the disrespect that we saw with Charles Oakley a couple of years ago, it just shows that James Dolan will go to no bounds to show his power. I mean, essentially, he's a dictator over the New York Knicks at this point because he doesn't shell out the money. He doesn't care about getting the free agents. He doesn't care about the celebrity endorsements.
Talk about being a micromanager.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Now he's gonna. Hey, by the way, if you're a Laker fan and you want to hate James Dolan, he's about to sell the Forum to Steve Ballmer.
Right.
Steve Ballmer's gonna knock down the Forum if James Dolan sells it to
you know, from a Cowboys fan, and for me not being a Jerry Jones fan, for as much of a micromanager as he is, and for the things that he has done to that organization, I hope that James Dolan stays because Jerry Jones would then elevate himself as probably, even though he has turned that franchise into a $5 billion just powerhouse. Being an actual owner, he is not good, right? He's horrible.
You're talking about
Jerry Jones, yes, at what he does. Instead of him sitting back and allocating resources to help the team win, he has to be a part of everything. Just like James Dolan, his name has to be in the headlines. He has to be in interviews. He has to make a scene about everything and make everything about him or about the Knicks, as opposed to the actual players that you are paying to play the game. So. The thing is, because he owns the team, he can only fire himself, which he is not going to do. Or unless you have a situation, like Donald Sterling, the former LA Clippers owner, where you have such an egregious attack and something like that. But other than something like that, the NBA cannot do much to stop James Dolan.
This is what I was going to say. So we brought Donald Sterling. I was just literally going to say this. Obviously, it was different. He said racist comments that can just never be taken back, and the entire league agreed that he should go. But what happened? The players threatened not to play. And that's the only way the Knicks... There's the only way Dolan really could be affected is if players didn't want to play for him anymore.
They don't.
No, but I mean literally didn't want to step on the court. Because at that point, Adam Silver does have to step in and go, we can't have this. We can't have games getting canceled because there is a certain way that you can get to your boss.
Right. I mean, it's almost gotten to that point because no free agent players are wanting to go play with you, and unless you are drafted by the Knicks, right? That's the only reason a player would even play for them. Because listen,
but why? Why do you want to play for the Knicks?
If I was a Knicks player right now, I would be counting the days until my contract was up because I would be out of there so fast it wouldn't even be funny. Yeah. The Knicks would try to come in and offer me a contract or my agent, and I would be like, don't even take their calls. Yeah. I'm out of here. I don't care if I go. I don't care if I go to the G League. I'm not playing for the Knicks anymore. No, it really is that bad, and it's sad to say that an owner has had such a negative effect on an organization when you would think that the owner, the one who forks out all this money, would only want to be propping up his organization, not only to better his profits, but to obviously win games. And James Dolan is doing the complete 180.
I'll say this. I don't know what the standings are this year. I don't know if the Knicks are going to end up with number one pick. But I'll be honest. If you get drafted by the Knicks, I think RJ Barrett got screwed last year because I think he thought there was a chance that a superstar was going to come to his team.
He did.
And so but I think now that superstars are going to come there, why accept being drafted by the Knicks?
No. If you get drafted by the Knicks, you pull an Eli Manning and you say, I'm not going to the Chargers. Yeah. You're going to trade me. Now, obviously, Eli Manning had his brother and his dad. The family name helped with that. But no, in all seriousness, I would just tell my agent, we're not going. Trade me.
I'll say this.
Trade me.
I just thought of something, though, too. There is one guy in this draft that would accept playing for the Knicks, and that's LaMelo Ball. The Knicks have that guy that they can have this stupid sideshow with LeVar Ball on the side, and draft LaMelo Ball and have a joke of a team again.
Well, see, I think LeVar Ball would love that. I don't know if LaMelo Ball would love that. I think that's more of the family business or LeVar Ball's business, Big Baller Brand.
Yeah.
Can't believe we were talking about this right now. I think that's more of that as opposed to LaMelo Ball himself. I think he wants to kind of separate and make a name for himself in a sense.
Okay, so we didn't even move on. I just mentioned, draft picks, stuff like that. Zion played LeBron twice since our last podcast and really showed out, and the games were some of the funnest I've watched this year. Real quickly, do you personally believe that Zion is the next superstar in the league?
I do, and it's been a small sample size. He's played, I think, around 20 games or something like that. He is the only teenager in NBA history to, I believe it was, have like over 30 points and like 15 rebounds or something. I mean, the guy's just a freak. Like NBA players, whether it's LeBron James or other superstars, are saying, we have not seen this type of athleticism and this type of just freakish ability. What this guy is doing, he's technically a boy playing against men, right? But in reality, he is a man that is dominating everyone else right now. So I think he can. Obviously, he needs to develop his jump shot, his free throw shooting, and his game will evolve. And he's coming into this season off an injury. So think about this: Zion Williamson is not even in like 100% the best shape of his life, right? So how about this upcoming offseason? Hopefully, he gets to stay healthy. He gets to train all offseason, get himself in great shape, and then come into next season fully healthy. I can see him taking the throne from LeBron, just like LeBron took the throne from Kobe, and Kobe took the throne from Michael Jordan. Eventually it's going to happen. The way that LeBron is playing this year, he's saying, wait a minute, I still got the throne, I'm still the man, as LeBron's in the MVP conversations right now. But 2, 3 years, 4 years down the road, if Zion can, knock on wood, stay healthy, no doubt, in my opinion, he can be the face of the NBA.
He's sure impressive, and I was going to make a joke earlier when we were talking about Kuzma. I think Kuzma got dunked on so much by Zion Williamson.
Here's the problem: you don't put Kyle Kuzma on Zion Williams and expect something good to happen.
Especially with gold hair, like that. You just can't. The gold hair makes it look so much worse when Zion is on top of him dunking.
I get that Anthony Davis was out for that game against the Pelicans, but you're Frank Vogel. You're a defensive-minded coach, and your best strategy is to put Kyle Kuzma, a skinny dude, on Zion Williams.
LeBron has to essentially win the game for the Lakers, so you can't put LeBron on him all game. You do it in the playoffs, not in the regular season.
All right,
you can't. Dwight Howard. You moving Dwight Howard around.
You put multiple guys on him, but every time I turned the game, because I was going back and forth, I remember watching that game, every time I turned the TV back on the game, Kyle Kuzma was on Zion Williams. I was like, what the hell is going on, man? The guy's getting eaten alive.
Well, they're switching and stuff like that, but
you don't even need to switch.
Yeah, you're right.
If I'm Zion Williams, I'm like, hey man, give me the ball, just like space out, I got this one-on-one. And he just backs him down.
I did love the back and forth where there's certain moments in both games where Zion makes a play and you see a switch hitting LeBron's head.
Zion had an alley-oop dunk that had the crowd going crazy. LeBron James takes the ball, dribbles 2 steps past half court, and shoots a Steph Curry range 3-point shot, nails it, and basically, literally like he was saying, I'm still the man. Zion, you still gotta wait.
And then Zion tried to dribble the ball up and lost it.
Yeah.
And so
LeBron was still flexing his muscles saying, I'm still the man.
It's must-see TV, and it makes me want to see Lakers-Pelicans in the playoffs. Not that I think the Pelicans would win a single game in that series, but it would be a pretty entertaining 4 games. I'll say that. What do you make of this Harden... the Greek freak little feud that's going on, where this goes back to I'll explain. This goes back to the All-Star game where Giannis said that he didn't draft Harden because he wanted guys that pass the ball on his team. And then he said, to further antagonize Harden, he said that when we played that overtime, that fourth quarter where everybody tried, they essentially just gave the ball to whoever Harden was guarding because he doesn't also play defense.
He does actually.
Literally destroying Harden's character in the process. Harden then came back at him earlier this week saying that, I wish I was 7 foot tall and could dunk the ball over everybody. because I personally had to learn to play the game of basketball and learn to pass and learn to shoot and learn to make plays. That's the best response I get. And then Giannis went off for 40 and 20. And so, I like it. I like that there's a feud. There is the potential that the Rockets and Bucks play in the finals this year.
No.
I don't know if they play during the regular season this time, but I'm always up for a good feud. As long as it's healthy and there's not, families aren't getting involved and stuff like that. I'm in for, and James Harden doesn't get attacked enough, both on the court and in the media, for kind of his selfish. But I think Russell Westbrook's been the guy on that team lately, and Harden's kind of been taking a lot of the highlight. So I like it. And the Greek Freak, I personally believe he's not going to go anywhere. I think he's going to stay with the Bucks forever. I think he's like Damian Lillard, where he's going to stick there. I like that he's kind of defending himself and he's taking the All-Star game seriously and he's trying to win it for I like John. I have no problem with this at all.
I don't see much fire to this, to be honest with you. I don't think either of these players are the type of talkers that will go back and forth on social media and get at one another. Yeah, they've been talking for the past week, jabbing back and forth. But James Harden, dude, I'm sorry, he would get his ass beat. By the Greek Freak if he really wanted to, right? Yeah. And for Giannis, he's just not the one really one to talk. Like he talks with his play.
Yeah,
that's just what he does. So I don't really see much to this. This isn't like Matt Barnes and like Lance Stevenson or like that's just random. But like these two guys aren't talkers. Like they talk with their play most of the time. So listen, I don't think the Rockets are getting to the finals because the Rockets with their small ball. James Harden was doing the jump ball. He won the jump ball in the game against the Knicks.
He won the jump ball?
Yeah, they had him as the jump ball.
But like just to further this whole, a lot of this discussion has it has been gone full circle. You just told me that James Harden won the tip against the Knicks?
He won the tip against the Knicks. Yeah. Like that's they were literally playing. I'm sorry. In the playoffs, when the game slows down, you are the Rockets with their small ball, with like their tallest player being 6'6", is not going to work in the playoffs. It's not going to happen.
Tallest player is Tyson Chandler, but he is not the same.
It's not going to happen. So I think both of those guys just need to go back and do their thing and play. But James Harden, I think, needs to watch his mouth because James Harden. No, I'm serious. James Harden can go off for 40. You can know that. But I think Giannis is right. James Harden doesn't play defense, right? He doesn't do any of that. And really, if someone were to square up on him or like get physical with James Harden is going to fall to the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to happen. He's not going to be able to withstand Giannis. I hope they have another matchup in the regular season. They're not going to face off in the finals. I want to see Giannis go right up to James Harden, post him up, and dunk on him.
This is why I like hockey, because literally there's the chance in hockey that these two guys would drop the gloves during the game and punch each other.
Yeah. So, in the end, like I said, I don't see too much fire to this. This is just, a little back and forth. This is probably already over. If it's not, I don't see this going any further.
Okay. This is the last topic, real quick. Clippers and Lakers play this Sunday. Jared, would you be concerned if the Lakers lost again? Barring, Anthony Davis or LeBron not playing.
So if everyone's at full strength?
If everyone's at full strength, Clippers are at full strength, although it wouldn't matter if the Clippers were full strength. But would it concern you if they lost again? Considering the last game, I believe, is going to be so late in the season that probably there might be some resting players going into the playoffs. This is really the last matchup that they're truly.
It would a little bit, and I think it's more of a psyche thing for the Lakers than anything else. The Lakers still have the number one seed. If the Lakers lose to the Clippers, they're not, falling out of the playoffs or anything like that. But I think from a psychological standpoint, for the Lakers to have to sit there and concede and basically say that they're 0-3 against the Clippers in one of those games. Paul George did not play. I think that has to hurt them a little bit, right? Especially when the Lakers have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Now, as a whole entire team, I think the Clippers have a better talented roster. But the Lakers still have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, two of the top 5 players in the NBA. And so, yes, from a psychological standpoint, I think that would definitely hurt the Lakers and just go their mindset. Because if they do meet in the playoffs again, the Clippers I think would not only have the leg up from a talent perspective, but from a mentality standpoint, saying, hey man, we've already beat you guys multiple times in the regular season. We know what it takes to beat you, right?
Yeah, well, I'll say this: the Clippers, although the last game wasn't the best, they have when full healthy. They haven't lost lately. They haven't lost at all. And once the Clippers win, if they do win this game Sunday, they then win the season series, which means if somehow the Lakers end up with the same record as the Clippers would then be the number 1 seed in the whole West too. So we're looking at not that that's very realistic because the Lakers have a huge lead and they probably won't, but it just there's so much that could go wrong in the Lakers sense if they keep losing these games to these top opponents. I'm obviously a somewhat biased Clippers fan, so I'm going to say that I believe the Clippers will win because they've shown me no reason why they wouldn't. But I personally do believe it would hurt the Lakers' psyche too if they were to lose, barring everyone playing. Interesting note: not only did the Lakers have to play the Clippers, they played the Bucks 2 games before. They play the Bucks at home and they play the Clippers on the road.
Yeah, I think the Lakers they get a little lucky here because the Lakers tonight, Tuesday night, are playing the 76ers, but the Sixers are without Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. So you think about that stretch of games.
It's a shake no.
If the Sixers were healthy, the Lakers talk about a brutal stretch of the 76ers, the Clippers and the Bucks all within a short period of time.
Yeah.
So I think the Lakers lucked out that they get the 76ers shorthanded tonight. So they more than likely get a win, and then they've got to prepare for 2 tough games coming up.
True. All right, so that's it. That's our podcast today. If you just joined in while we were talking about the NBA, we talked a lot about the NFL Combine. I gave you 3 guys that I thought really improved after the Combine. Jared gave another one too. So go back and it's just overall Combine analysis and our opinion on the Combine overall. This has been the podcast. Next week, we will have another show. No matter what, we're either going to be doing an MLB season preview, or if there's any major news, we'll probably talk about the Clippers-Lakers result too, just because we're both fans of each team. But besides that, it will more than likely just be an MLB show, or if there's any major news that comes out, we'll be talking about that, and we'll move the MLB preview another week along. But for Nick Nenad,
I'm Jared Smith.
This has been the Cover 2 Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.